If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, what is an unbreakable truth about you and I that Jesus repeated the most often? Of all the things that he taught us about ourselves, what is a thing that is repeated everywhere? I couldn't have answered the question. I couldn't have given you an answer. I didn't know. But there is one thing that Jesus said that gets the most coverage about us of anything he said. In fact, it's in every gospel. Matthew and Luke, they repeat it more than once. And it's not a command. It's a description of how life works. We talk about the law of gravity. But it's not really a law. Like governments make laws. Gravity is just a word we use to describe how our physical world works. When I was a kid, I'm walking home from school in the great metropolis of Witchy-proof. If you know where Witchy is, the train line goes through the middle of town. And I'm walking home and there's an old peppercorn tree. And there's this bird's nest hanging up in this low-hanging branches that I couldn't quite reach with my Rayment height. But I'm smart. I found half a brick and I threw it up in the air to hit this bird's nest. And in all the mayhem, it came down and hit me on the head and cut my head open, and I got blood soaking my shirt, and I had to walk home, and people thought I was half dead and they're worrying about me. Nah, I'm just dumb. I just threw this thing up. But see, a guy called Isaac Newton in 1666, he had a similar experience. But he didn't get hit on the head by an apple, he saw an apple fall. And in that moment, he realised there was a universal force at work that he named gravitas, which is Latin for weight. Now, Jesus didn't use just one word, he used 20 words to describe this universal force that is at work in your life. And whether you believe it, whether you understand it, makes no difference, because it's at work, always at work. Now, if we had a big ladder on a nice sunny day and we got you to climb up onto the roof of this building and you stepped off, whether you believe in gravitas or not, whether you can explain it, understand it, the moment you step off, gravitas takes over. See, if you break a law that our government makes, like speeding, and you don't get caught, nothing happens. But if we ignore what God shows us, if we refuse to accept it, if we walk away from what he says, if we're ignorant, we get broken. So what does Jesus keep repeating? What is so important that Jesus doesn't want us to miss this? Mandy read last week some of this same verse, and I'm going to read it to you. For whoever wants, is in Matthew chapter 16, for whoever wants to save his, her life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for me will save it. At Bondi, people ran to save their lives. That's not what Jesus is talking about. That is something we should do. It's instinctive. That form of saving our lives is a good thing. I caught the tail end of an interview a few days after what happened at Bondi with the first cousin of the rabbi who was the young father of 5 kids that was killed. And this was on the ABC. And just at the end of this interview, this is what I heard him say. Irrational hate took the lives or the life of his cousin. But he said only irrational love can counteract hate. He even described this irrational love as fanatical love. That's what Jesus is talking about. The culture of God's kingdom is not the culture of this world. Changed gun laws cannot change hearts. Only God can do that. The only way life works on earth, really works, is following the clear and repeated words of God. It's the only way. That's the way we were designed to function. There's only one way. There used to be a petrol depot in McLeod Street where I could buy cheaper fuel than from the servos. I went in there early one morning, my ute was on empty, and I filled my ute up and I drove away. I got about maybe 1.5 blocks and my ute just stopped, just died. It took a while to work out, with the help of smarter people than me. What had happened was I'd filled my ute up with water and not petrol. How did I do that? Well, it's cheaper. What had happened was overnight there'd been this stuff called rain, and somehow all this rainwater had got into their underground petrol holding things, tanks, and I was the first one there and I got to sample the product. Well, that didn't work, did it? See, what Jesus is saying is that by design, how we came out of the factory, how we were made, there's only one way to experience life to the full, God's way. See, true life is found in surrender. It's the only fuel that works. Everything else is water. It may change the gauge. My gauge went from empty to full. You can fill up your tank with water. You may even get part way to where you want to go, but you will never get to where you really want to go in life without what you were designed to have as a fuel that energises you. See, smart people let go of what you cannot keep so you can gain what you cannot lose. Here's the thing. Jesus was talking when he said that, not to some pagan Aussie, but to believers. This is not an invitation by Jesus to come and see. It's not even come and be with him. Jesus is speaking to his seasoned disciples privately. He's stretching them. He's preparing them for a mission that would literally change the hearts and lives of people in our world. 2.5 billion people on earth today are evidence that that worked. On almost every occasion that Jesus describes this universal truth, he combines it with an invitation to come and die. And in Matthew 16:24, he begins with this. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone would come after me, she must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. And here's this universal law. Here's the reason why he says that. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. Now, remember that Jesus is talking to his closest disciples. And the life that he's describing is your inner being. It's the real self. It's your real you. It's your heart's desires. It's the things that bring lasting and deep satisfaction in life here and now. Please don't misunderstand the word save, saved, salvation that you will find through the New Testament. It's actually one of my favourite words in the whole Bible. It's used over 150 times in the New Testament. It's such a rich word. It's the Greek word sozo. I've talked about it before. But when Luke quotes Jesus repeating what he said on another occasion, he takes this truth and he finishes it with not what Matthew said about we would find our life. He quotes Jesus saying we would save our life, sozo. Now, as a kid, this may come as a shock to you, but I used to collect stamps. It's a safe thing to do. And at this time of the year, way back then, they had a thing called Christmas cards. And people sent them by a thing called mail. And you put a thing called a stamp on an envelope. I know it's old technology, but I used to tell my family and anyone that would listen, please save the Christmas stamps for me. That's not the word that Jesus is using when he says save. Some of you like to save money if you can. Not the same word. To describe someone who becomes a Christian as being saved, that's very confusing. Because in reality, when we start to believe in Jesus, that is the beginning of the process of sozo. In Philippians 2:12, Paul encourages us to do, listen to this, continue to work out your salvation with awe and reverence. And in that context, the word salvation that Paul uses, it's present tense. Has nothing to do with what happens after we die. And that word salvation comes from that Greek word sozo. Now, I don't normally do this, but I want to read to you directly from the Strong's Greek Concordance about this magnificent word. And this is what it says. Sozo saturates the New Testament with the theme of divine deliverance. From the urgent cries of Galilee's storm-tossed waters to the cosmic promise that all Israel will be saved. They are so melodramatic, these people. Anyway, it goes on. The verb gathers every facet of God's rescuing purpose into one word. No occurrence of this word contradicts one another. Together, these 150 times this is used, unfold one seamless testimony of the Lord who came to seek and save those who are lost. This is what it means. It's to deliver and protect, literally or figuratively, to heal, to do well, to make whole. And this is the way it's used. It's used to describe physical rescue, physical healing, social restoration, spiritual growth, healing and deliverance from sin, and it begins with belief. In the context of when Jesus was talking about save your life, Jesus is referring to your physical life on earth, the real you. How you think, how you feel, how you believe. One of my past roles here in Bairnsdale was to help assess particularly young adults whether they were suitable to enter a Christian drug rehabilitation live-in situation at a place at Kyabram called Teen Challenge. And they would sometimes be there for a year. I had this mum come to me and she was desperate. Her 21-year-old daughter was addicted to heroin. She was involved in prostitution to try and get the money she needed. And I got to sit with her daughter. I got to talk to her about what was possible, what was on offer. I even got her daughter to come to our youth church that we held up in the Bark Auditorium each Sunday night. And with a lot of effort from Mum and me, we got her there. I think she lasted 2 hours and she walked away. Because she had decided that she could sort out her own stuff in her own way. And what Jesus is telling us, you didn't make you. You can't fix you. Now, I told you the story of that person's life, that moment in her life, because I learnt something through her. It doesn't matter how much someone loves you, wants to help you, until you want the help of others, including God Himself, until you surrender control, everything you try in your own strength is the wrong fuel. In our church we planted in Sydney, there was a guy that would come and he'd been involved in a car accident. You know, they always say it was a bad car accident. Who's been in a good one? Right? You've been in a good one. Saved your life. Yeah. But as a result of this car accident, he couldn't work. He couldn't be the dad he wanted to be. He was in continual pain. And I made a deal with him. Every time you come and walk through those doors and you're in pain, we're going to pray for you. And every time we did, the pain would go away. There was a Sunday and I'm standing here and I'm preaching with a little heart out. And I looked at him and he's in pain. And I couldn't keep preaching. I just stopped and I said, we're just going to pray for you. And some people gathered around and we prayed for him. And then they got up and they took him out of the room and into another place. And I got back to preaching. And then I looked up and coming back through the doors is this guy. Now, he couldn't move his arm past there. And he's going like this. I'm thinking, oh no, I'll never finish this sermon. And I never did. They prayed for healing out there. And guess what? God healed him. What a shock. And he's a big bloke. And he came down the front. He grabbed the microphone. He just starts telling everyone. He's showing him what he can do. And we prayed for him more. And suddenly he just went poof down like that. Nearly took out the drums. And 2 weeks later, he got up and shared this testimony, how he couldn't be the dad to his daughter that he wanted to be, how he couldn't work and all the things. And now he's got his license back. And he said, if God's really healed me, then I've got to be able to do all the things I couldn't do before. So he said, I've test driven this body, and explained all the things that he'd done in the next 2 weeks that he'd not been able to do. He came empty. He found the right fuel. Desperate he came, and God healed him. He got back to working again. And because now he could work, they gave him extra shifts. And now he's working on a Sunday because life's going well. Then he stops coming to church, and he disconnected from God, and he took it all back in his own strength and made a mess of his life again. There's only one way in God's design for us to function well. And for 2,000 years, we've been giving Peter a hard time for denying Jesus. Have you ever tried to look at Peter's life through Peter's eyes? Can you understand Jesus has sold him a dream, and when Jesus is arrested and facing execution, for Peter the dream was over. And when he denied Jesus and he went out into the darkness, and it says that he cried bitterly, none of the team went after him. No one put a arm around his shoulder. Peter, it's going to be okay. Jesus said he'd come back to life. It's going to be okay, Pete. No one helped him. He was alone. But to Peter's credit, somehow Peter came back and reconnected with the team that he'd let down. Somehow Peter understood that healing doesn't come by ourselves, isolating. That life transformation happens in community. It's how we're designed. And back in community, on a lake in Galilee, Jesus appeared on the shore very early one morning, and he cooked breakfast for the boys. And as they ate breakfast together, Jesus healed him, restored him, recommissioned him. All the heartache he'd gone through, the sense of abandonment and rejection, was broken off his life. And do you know how Jesus did that? He gave him a bigger dream than he'd ever carried before. And when Jesus described the dream to him, what this vision of his life would be like going forward, he also explained to him that this dream would require a death, his death. And when Jesus explained all that, he said to him, Pete, follow me. I'll put it out there now. You follow me. Don't miss this. All the mental anguish and torment that Peter went through came because he denied Jesus. And all the healing, the sozo that he experienced came through denying himself. But here's the thing. It takes a certain level of Christian maturity to understand what denying yourself really is. That's why Jesus waited till his team of young adults had grown enough spiritually, had progressed from come and see to come and be with him, that they had experienced life on the road with Jesus. They had seen him. They had listened to him. They had learned from him, watched him operate in power and authority out of this place of humility and serving and compassion. They were there when Jesus looked them in the eyes and said, Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. The problem with that, for that to work in our life, you've got to have someone that hates you, that mistreats you, for you to be able to come with an opposite, different spirit. It's the law of second response. In any relationship you are in, any relationship, when you have been mistreated, what you do next will determine where that relationship will go or won't go. And to do that God's way requires denying yourself. I could give you a really big list of what denying yourself is not. Mandy would be the first to run up here and she would spend the next half hour telling you what denying yourself isn't, because in church life we get it so wrong, and we have repeatedly. Perhaps it's better to just simply look at what Jesus did for Peter. He gave him something to live for bigger than himself. Just a sec. I had a little looky-see into every male in my family tree on both sides of the family. And guess what? Coronary heart disease has taken out every one of them. There is no exceptions. Every male on both sides of the family, and many at young ages. My great-granddad was 47, heart failure. Mum's dad, my grandpa, 69. I'm 68. A young 68. So I have decided that my insulin is not as receptive to sugar and carbs as it used to be when I was 10 years old. So I've made a decision, a permanent decision, to change how many carbs and sugars I take into this finely tuned body. The good thing is I'm not going to inflict this on anyone else. I'm not on a mission. And you know what I've discovered? I can deny certain things that I would like because I'm got a bigger purpose. Why I'm denying putting that into my body. And for every one of you in this room, when you stood and made promises to the person you were marrying, at that moment you were denying yourself access to every other male or female on planet Earth for this thing called marriage, because you valued and loved the other person so highly. Why did Jesus wait 3.5 years to give his disciples on that final night with him a new command? I think Jesus knew that it was important before that night. Why did he wait 3.5 years to say to them, I want you to love one another? Because they weren't ready for it yet. They hadn't yet seen how Jesus would fully model what denying yourself and taking up your cross really looked like. The only concept the team had of a cross was what the Romans did And the people that were put on that cross died, every one of them permanently. It was the end of life. They didn't know that in God's kingdom, on the other side of the cross, Jesus would show them there is life. There's resurrection life. And when John records Jesus talking about this universal truth, this losing our life or saving our life, he sets it up with these words of Jesus in John 12:24. This is what Jesus says: I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat is planted in the soil and dies, it remains alone, but its death will produce many new kernels, a plentiful harvest of new lives. The boundaries that Jesus put around himself, where he was able to say no, enabled him to say yes to things that God really had him to do. And when we get this right, a plentiful harvest of new lives is the result. Come and see, it's like that's the starting point. When we decide to follow Jesus, healing and wholeness, that deep work really begins. And maturity is expressed in our capacity to love one another. Paul in Philippians 2 verse 3, he's talking about this denying ourselves, picking up our cross and following Jesus. He's talking about but different language, and he says this: don't be selfish. Lex, do not eat all the good stuff. Leave something for Coral. Right? Don't put yourself first. Last night, I'd cooked tea or my part of it, the meat, and there was a bone that she'd cut the meat off, and it was sitting there, and I could have just eaten it, the nice bits off the bone, you know. But I actually asked her if she wanted it. I got to eat it in the end, right? It's reverse psychology, you know. But Paul's saying, don't put self first. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of yourselves better than yourself. Whoa, you sow that one on social media, thinking of everyone else better than you. You'll get held down. Because in our culture, we say things like being true to yourself, to put yourself first is the goal. And in the kingdom, Jesus says that's how you lose everything you really want. There's a better way. I discovered that petrol is much better than water. And when you grow in your relationship with Jesus, your goals begin to change. And when you deny yourself God's way, and you put healthy boundaries around you and other people, and you are free then to do what God has for you to do, that's when life works at its best. I actually love sugar and carbs. Who could tell? But my heart doesn't. My body is not designed to eat the quantities that I would like to consume. There is one verse I want to read. We're finished. But I want to just read this out. It's worth looking at. It's in that same chapter, Philippians 2. It's verse 13. And Paul says, for God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. What pleases God? when we grow in sozo, when healing and wholeness comes into our very being. And what begins in this life is completed when Jesus returns. But in this life, when we live out of that wholeness, everyone else in our world benefits. It's how we're designed to live. It's the only thing that works. And then we become salt and light to our world. Oh, can I get the band up, thanks? There is a song that came out of India. Rebecca, do you know a place called India? Yeah. You're from India. No, sure. No, you're not. You're further north. Like Kathmandu. It's all the same. It's like New Zealand, Australia. It's all the same place. No? Okay. Out of a foreign country to Rebecca, a place called India. This song came out. It's actually the tune comes from an Indian folk song, and the lyrics, the words of this, are meant to be those of an Indian villager who he and his family were martyred for their faith. Now, I'm not sure how true the story is, but the statements in this, there's 3 verses, and each is a statement. And this is meant to be the statements that he made. Billy Graham used this song, made it very popular around the world at his big conventions and rallies and things. It's such a simple song, but it begins with, I have decided. And it is the process of discipleship. It's the come and see and come and die in a song. And all the bits in the middle are missing. But this is the essence of what God wants to do in our life. Thank you.
I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Do not go with me. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. Do not go with me. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. Do not go with me. Still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the world behind me. The cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me, the world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back. We'll sing one more time. The world behind me, the world behind me, the cross before me,
simple words, but I'll tell you what, when we have made a decision and decide to follow Jesus, and we speak to ourselves, no turning back, it's life-changing. It's the fuel that takes us where our heart really, really wants to go.